Hi there, and welcome to my beginner's tutorial for the newly released early access version of the game Sumerians. I'm Icon, and this is version 0.10, freshly released, and I'm gonna guide you through the basics of founding a town and having fun with it. And at the same time, I want to show the basic gameplay for people who are wondering if the game is fun or not. So let's jump right into that. The map here shows you tiles which you can play. The only thing I want to say, dark green tiles are fertile soil, and these elevated areas here are mountains which are hindering your building plots. So let's just jump into that. You can select your own, after your own volition. You can also go for a smaller tile. The game itself so far doesn't offer too many objectives. It's more about playing around, keeping your citizens happy, and create a big town as big as possible. It's fun so far, and I think there's big development possibilities in it. So here goes our newly found town. So here's the river. That's where all the agriculture will happen. And you receive at the start of the game one storehouse. And this storehouse I really like to put right next to the fertile soil, because agriculture is really important during the early game. So we receive our first 40 people. Our people need zones to live at, do farming, do workshops, and do trade. This happens all with zoning systems which are quite similar to SimCity and such. And there's also a wide array of infrastructural buildings which you can build as the state itself. So the first few basics we always will need is a builder's workshop. This building will send out builders to build stuff, basically. The builder's workshop has no influence on building up zoning areas, though. It's just for state buildings. So let's put one up here, and I'll also drop down a few zones of housing so my people around here can find some place to live at. Also designating a few spots to farm, and as you might notice, they are not tileable on the less arable soil. So also a few pieces of workshop, just a few basics for our first few citizens to live at. There we go. So let's unpause the game and let them work for a moment and wait until the builder's workshop is constructed, and watch them go. So you see here the arrows. When you click at some building, designate the workers which are associated to that building. So the two arrows here are associated to the warehouse, and these arrows here are associated to the builder's workshop. So if you wonder where your workers are at, you can always check it out. So now these folks are building up the workshop, I hope. So let's there we go. And here's our first service building completed. We're not done here. We're going to need transporters for the logistics. Transporters will transport goods from A to B, and that's very important. And also we're going to need a farmer's building, because our citizens do their own farm stuff, but we as a state, or as the state, like to do our own farming too, because in this game grain is your basic currency. So place down your state farms as quick as possible. These are here, and place them generously large, because this is basically your money. So let's check this out. There's going to be a farming plot and a transporter's plot. And you see here, 1 of 4 active builders, 4 of 4 active builders. That's exactly these guys we just hired here. So there we go. And here are our transporters rolling in a moment at least. And let's pause the game from here. So these are your utmost basic facilities that you need to have to keep your city alive. The fields here will produce agricultural products which go back into your wallet, and your citizens will need new zones to stay happy and stay alive. As you notice here, at this readout, you can see if you need new zones. Like here, we obviously seem to need new fields, but I don't really believe them as of now. So these are the utmost basics, but that's just where the fun starts, right? So the game now offers several building chains. We can create mud. Out of mud we can create walls, and out of mud we can also create bricks. Out of bricks we can create new buildings. That's nothing too unexpected here. The production tier features clay. Out of clay we can create pottery. Out of pottery and out of grain we can create beer, and so on and so forth. These are a few of these things aren't really implemented fully yet, but that's a part of the objectives where we can work towards to. But for the utmost basics, we don't really need that. The really important things are creating a solid income of grain, and that works via these state fields, and the timeline explains how it actually does interact. So your cycle of the year starts with the harvest. So the first month of the year is harvest month, then comes the sowing time, and then we grow, and then we harvest again. So the people working on these fields are working for themselves, and they will pay some small tax to the state, but apart from that, you don't really take any profit out of these fields. The only profit that you can take will happen in these fields. So month 1 has begun, and let's see what happens now. Our workers here will now walk towards these fields and sow them out. So here you can check out what's happening, seeded percentage, and once that's done, our workers will chill and sit back. You can, at the Farmer's Workshop, designate how many workers will work here. And sadly, in this state of the game, we have no readout for the work load percentage, so I can only assume how many workers I really need. And you pay your workers in grain, and you can also pay them some bonus in beer. If you pay them bonus beer, they produce less spoilage here. So to find out how much grain you need, you can check out the stats and info tab found in the section down here. And in the products area, there's a readout about how much grain has been consumed per year, and how much has been produced, and how much has spoiled or has been otherwise destroyed. So these readouts are very, very informative if you want to check out if your production is sufficient or not. So in this scenario, as you've seen here, I've started too late with the production of grains, and therefore we should lose a few people, but let's play that out. I really like to show some small mistakes as well. So here people have died and left the city, migrants have scared away, and grain has been raised to restore the state. So you don't really lose the game if you run out of grain, but your town suffers a severe setback. So but I didn't fear that too much, because from now on you'll see why. So here begins month 1. So the workers now charge out and cut down those grains, and you see here we're producing insane amounts of grain. And here we see the next chapter. If we pause the game, the transporters now go and grab in the grain and transport it into the warehouse. The warehouse itself has a pretty low capacity. We won't be even able to store all the grain in there. So I strongly recommend, therefore, a storage building found in the transport and storage tab, the granary. So the granary offers 12,000 units of storage capacity, but you will need bricks. And I'll explain that now as the second and last half of this video. So to create bricks, we will need a mud pit. Mud pits need to be placed down at the fertile soil areas. Let's place it down closer to the river. And from the mud brick, we will create the brickyard. So it's a pretty simple economy. You just have workers that go over to the mud pit, and then they transport the mud to the brickyard, and then they produce bricks there. The real trick lies in the logistics. So you see here at the transporters workshop, these guys are now busy working at the fields, and as long as there are not too many jobs, you won't be suffering too much pain with the transporters at all. But later, when there are more and more goods to be transported, the game doesn't work with only one transporter's workshop anymore. But you can build more, and you can designate their priorities here. That works in a way that here it says that the transporters will always be busy to transport grains and farming goods first. Then they will try to transport construction materials and such. That's this stuff. Then they will transport production goods, and so on and so forth. You can change these priorities, and since you can also designate how many workers are there, it's sometimes way better to have 3 workshops with 3 workers each, all focused onto the specific jobs, instead of one workshop that has no really good specifications. So if you get the idea, I would drop down a transporters workshop here, which let's do that with an example, which will be specialized in construction work. Also at transporters workshops, we can buy donkeys for grain. Donkeys just increase the carrying capacity of the people that work there. I hope we're going to see more features like that later during the game developments. And at the builder's workshop, you can also tell them to store bricks directly in the workshop. This is something I strongly recommend, because this way your transport people will start to carry the bricks right in there, and then they will be able to just store that stuff there. So now I have the new builder's workshop. Yeah, that's great. So exactly not what I wanted. Whoopsie daisy. So of course I wanted a transporter's workshop. About the pathing, you can trust your people or draw your own paths. I strongly recommend to draw your own paths to areas where you feel like your guys and girls are not walking correctly towards to. So what's happening now is mud will be transported to the brickyard at some point, and as you see here, there's literally nothing happening. The mud is just lying right next to that. So now we just reduce the transporters to 5 and 5, and up the priorities here. So let's check out if we produce enough grain. As we see here, we produce 2.3k and we only consume 370. That's no problem. We pay our workers in grain, and if we can give them bonus beer, they will be working less inefficient. So that's a thing to keep track of. So now let's check out our transport people here are now starting to be busy with the stuff that hasn't been done yet. So it's really one thing that I noticed while experimenting around. Several transporters workshops are really beneficial. So last but not least, we're going to talk about the zoning assignments. So the game develops around temple buildings, and the housing areas themselves will upgrade once they are enclosed by walls. So the game is all about planning your town like this to make it able to be enclosed by a wall. I just do a very simple and basic layout to give you the idea. So basic walls, there goes a gate in it, bang, and once these walls would be done, this area here would be upgraded. The mud temple increases authority. So far, authority has no real use that I have seen, that I could perceive. But I assume that authority will one day be important to increase your cultural progress. I don't know. So far, it's only neat buildings that you need to build behind walls. At least the small temple and the ziggurat need to be built behind walls. The small temple needs at least a mud wall, and the ziggurat needs brick walls. What's really nice about this game is you can upgrade the walls directly once this is done. Come on, guys, get it done. I want to show it off. I really like that feature because for such a early version, the game really has a solid user interface and makes a lot of things happen quite easily. Here, the mud wall can be upgraded into a brick wall, so you don't need to worry that your design built with simple walls isn't able to be upgraded later down the road. I really like that. Also, I really like the priority systems here. And yeah, you need to set up these production chains to pay the salaries of the people working in the temples. So the small temple people want beer as a standard payment, and the ziggurat people want fabrics as a standard payment. Fabrics can be created out of linen. Linen is created out of flax. Flax is created out of on these fields. Everything so far is pretty basic. The weapons, I haven't found any use so far. We can create decorations that are just well, for the visuals, but I really liked so far what I've seen. It's pretty promising, and so far version 1.0 0.1 offers you the option to build a really good looking ancient Sumerian town, and that's a good start. I'm really eager to see where this leads, and yeah, I hope that was a nice trip down the road for you guys. And as you see here, the town now is prospering, and we would be able to build that up in a nice and good looking way, which I will do on another video, but not now. So feel free to ask questions down below, leave a like, leave a subscribe, or just leave your voice there. I'd be happy to have a chat. Apart from that, have an awesome day and see you soon. Thanks for your time. Bye bye.